I have a really quick question,
Yeah.
which I think is really simple, and I don't know why it's not working. And I've reported a case to Salesforce. So
Second set of
the
eyes helps.
yeah, the billing and shipping address
Hmm.
are blank on a contract when I create it, even
Hmm.
though they're on the account and they're on the quote. I can't find any documentation that says that those should be pulling through, but I swear that I haven't had to build automation to do that in the past. Does that seem
Are they standard fields?
normal? Yeah, but
My,
I yeah.
hmm,
What's your gut say?
let's find out. Let's use
Mm,
my Revenue Cloud org to see what happens when I make a contract.
hmm.
I doubt, here's my theory. My theory is that it does not populate because how would CPQ exclude, say, other record types or other, at the same
Yeah,
time, I ran into this issue with a client of mine that's using Salesforce contracts plus CPQ, is that based on the amendment behavior being always, it was populating the CLM contract as the master contract on the amendment and putting the subscriptions on the wrong contract.
I remember you saying that. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I'm logged into my office hours org. Let's dive right in.
Um,
It's be a good time, I'm sure.
because it would mean that on every project I work on, I would
Hmm.
have to write a flow on every project I work on to populate that stuff onto the contract. And I just don't think I've done that in the past. But yeah, I reported the case to Salesforce and they were like, oh, those are standard fields, so we're going to pass it to the standard team. It's not a CPQ problem. So yeah,
Hmm.
maybe I'm misremembering.
I also find it interesting that the address search thing only seems to work once you've saved a record, or maybe I just don't wait long
Oh,
enough.
really?
Or maybe I haven't turned something on. I don't know.
Or does it work on this page or does it only work on the like it doesn't work on the pop-up maybe is the problem.
Uh, well, let's try that. Why
Good
not?
theory.
While we're at it.
Hmm.
I thought I was enabled in this org. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. Doesn't really matter.
Hmm. Do you have an address that you just use all the time?
This is this is the first Salesforce office in Chicago, which they're no
I
longer
see.
using.
Hmm. I use 123 Main Street.
I've used that before. I kind of like using a real address and the homage to my original, to the first days of Salesforce in my own life,
Hmm.
where I didn't know anything about anything. All right, let's
Hmm.
go ahead and while we're at it, let's create a contact here. Uh, so what I'm expecting is that the mailing contact will populate based on the account contact for the contact record. There we go. Mailing address. There we go.
So that's what you would expect for standard behavior. Yeah.
Standard behavior. Now my opportunity. Close date. There is no address information on the opportunity, which is expected. The standard behavior is complete using the contact role. Salesforce does that natively. And now I'm going to create a new quote. I must not have made my quick action here yet. Primary, all I'm going to populate is my opportunity and my account to see. So on save, I'm expecting CPQ's trigger to populate the address information from that on the account. It only does it on record create.
Hmm.
There we go.
And it did that. And it does that for me.
Yep. That standard behavior is CPQ. It maps those fields, and then I can override them if I want to. And we could even override them in the creation process because flows execute after triggers. So we
Okay.
could do that. Let's add a line. We should just deactivate the not standard price book. Because in these dev orgs that you spin up, there's two price books, both called standard price book, but only one of them can be the standard price book. It's similar to, well, you can only have one primary quote, you can only have one standard price book. And in order for products to exist in other price books, aka custom price books, they must first exist with a price book entry in the standard price book.
Yes.
I learned that lesson the hard way on one of my first projects. Let's do PB&J support. Start date is going to be September 1st. Can you believe it? We're almost to September 1st. Subscription term, let's do 36 months. Calculate, do I prorate? Yes, I do. Fantastic. I don't know, let's do quantity of 10 just for giggles. Oh, and then I fat fingered. I move too fast sometimes.
Oh no.
Let's try that again. See, this is how easy CPQ is. I can make a mistake and correct it very quickly.
Funny that you do a food example as well. When I was working with Brad Gross, who you'll know now from the chats, he always had a burrito example that he talked through of, and like, what if I have a recurring subscription of I get a burrito every week? And I was like, where do you do that?
That's an interesting use case, the subscribed asset concept. So the way I've thought about that in the past, it's a debate, like which product is the subscription. So I'm thinking what you're buying is a subscription to an asset. So the asset is the child, the subscription is the parent, and the pricing all lives at the parent level. Generally, that's kind of how I've been thinking about it, at least.
Because you would be charging them on a recurring basis and not a one-time charge. Yeah.
For this example, I'll just contract from the opportunity. Usually I'll create orders and contract
That's what
from
I was
those.
doing for my testing as well. Yeah.
Right. I should have my contract fairly soon. There it is. I'm expecting those fields to be null if they're even in my page layout. There's billing address. Now, how many of these do I have in the page layout in the first place? Let's take a look. It's nice to have an org with nothing in it. You can test so much more stuff.
Yeah, I should have done this before. I tested an R, but I didn't test this stuff, so apologies.
Oh no, it's all good. It gives me free content or like content ideas to share with the ecosystem. So I got that. All right. Why don't I see? Oh, look at that. I don't have field level security enabled for the shipping field.
Why? How random is that?
Well, it's kind of like how in the order, the field level security for admin is not enabled by default.
Yeah, I think we realized we had to do that in a permission set, and it's like,
but then that means I need to regenerate my contract because I wouldn't have had access to that field. So let's delete this contract and start again.
Yeah, that order object thing is funny because it's like you literally have twin field mapping to that object to the order line.
Actually, that's a good point.
In the permissions.
Maybe I should create an order first just to see, does it map to the order? Well, let's try just the contract, and then we'll try from the order to the contract to see if that might change things. All right, we contract. I love how this is the way most of us learn CPQ, is you just try things and see what happens. And exactly what lightning caching issue. There we go. I do not have any fields populated out of the box.
And that's
what I was
generating your
expecting.
contract from the opportunity.
Now let's delete this and generate the contract from an order. It's a good use case. Yeah. And to your earlier question in our group chat, I'm going to go ahead and create my order from my quote. Let's do this too. Where's my order checkbox? Is it not in the page layout?
Okay, this is Manoj. I've just been watching. Even otherwise, you would generate a contract from an order, right? Typically, because an opportunity may or may not convert. So it makes sense to convert it from an order, right?
Yeah, I'll typically do generate my contract from the order. Let's see here. Let's do a section for this.
Yeah, that's how I had built the process out, but I was just trying to shortcut it, and I thought it would have the same results just for testing. I wanted it to be faster, but yeah, you're right. The way that the process that we actually do in our automation in the system is opportunity order contract.
And what is the underlying license? Is it a Sales Cloud implementation, CPQ, or
CPQ implementation?
okay?
How you doing, Minaj?
Sorry, what was that, John?
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing all right. I'm glad it's Friday, I'll tell you that. All right.
Tell me about it.
We're gonna order. I think in this case, I am expecting the addresses because order management and order creation is very integral. I wonder if the contract was just overlooked because maybe the contract is a multi-use object, which it is in the case of one of my clients right now. They're doing CLM, Salesforce contracts, CLM stuff, and CPQ stuff off the same object. So that makes sense.
But that's a good point, because the order you're going to be using, you might be using it like to calculate tax and stuff like that. So you need the information there.
Yeah, estimated tax.
True.
Semantics. But semantics matter, you know?
Isn't that something that I heard about RLM, is that you'll be able to do estimated tax on the quotes?
That is correct. There's a subtotal, there's a tax estimation capability on the quote and the order. And then we can, the good and the bad of it is that you can do pretty much whatever you want. So if clients can do whatever they want, clients will do whatever they want. And that can be great, because one of the biggest complaints that all of us have had for many, many years is the lack of customization of the waterfall, the UI, the rigidness of the process, which for some companies, especially in my mind, early stage SaaS business, that really needs some structure. Hey, if we take this is what most companies do. Well, we're special. No, you're not. Do it this way. I have a prospect that I'm talking to that will, the sales rep will just, they will give the customer a price, prospect a price, and then the legal team draws up an order form and they go get the signatures and stuff. And then the sales ops team goes in to make a quote. By the way, they only generate about 2 quotes a month, very long sales cycles. The sales ops team will go in and with a combination of block prices and slab discount schedules and additional discount percents, try to just mess with that number to try to get it to what the sales rep promised in the first place. And so I'm asking, well, where did the sales rep get the number? I guess they get it from some old spreadsheet or something like this. So well, why? Well, first of all, if you're going to keep using that old spreadsheet, why not just make the price editable, put it whatever you want? Why are you worried about trying to get the mess around with 6 decimal points of precision with an additional discount percent? Whatever. There's a number of things we can work on there. I don't want to be too dismissive about it, you know, because they are in fact a prospect, but I'm just going like, we're brushing our teeth and then eating chocolate ice cream. We got the order backwards. Eat the ice cream, then brush the teeth, folks. But you know, what do I know? All right, details. There it is.
Is this for B2B or B2C or both? Because I see quote lines, right?
This in the prospect that I just mentioned, or in the example we have here?
The example we have here.
I see it as a B2B sort of a thing. I mean, it's the example is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich only for the purpose of explaining concepts in a language everybody understands, which is food. Everybody understands what food is. So that's why I use this as an example. It helps if you don't have to worry about what products are and everybody understands what they are, that lowers the threshold and opens up more space for learning new stuff. All right, so we got
So
the
they got to
address
the
here.
order.
Got to the order, but I'm still expecting it to not push to the contract.
Mm.
Did I activate? No, I didn't. We can only contract from an activated order.
Yep.
And then I will contract. I'm still expecting no address on the contract.
And is there any reason you're not expecting? Because
The reason I'm not expecting it is because the CPQ product team initially did not consider much else besides the narrowest scope possible to sell the product.
yeah,
Or
it's just a contract number.
Mhm. So no address.
There we go.
While we're here, I might as well show a couple of other things. These two checkboxes here
Yeah.
are really handy as well to automatically map that, because a lot of times we have our contacts related. Sometimes they can cause issues though. I forget what the specific bug is, but there's like a scenario in which I need to, for whatever reason, uncheck these because CPQ gets angry.
Yeah, there was a big project that I worked on previously where like we were doing a legacy data migration, and then we also had to change the way that checkbox was set because it was causing some behavior with like renewal contact roles not coming over or something like that. And I think it was actually an upgrade to the package that caused that it was like it didn't work that way before and it started working that way.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And also, there is no like great value in having the billing address and shipping address automatically populated in contract, right? Because in a B2B use case, you're possibly going to have a service account as well. So if your out of the box data model is anyway taking care of your billing account and your service account modeling, why would you need that in the contract object?
Yeah, you probably don't. I would probably, at least for CPQ related contracts, I would just take it off the page layout.
Yeah.
Okay. Take it off the page layout. Okay. Because you're saying that when you're billing somebody, you would be looking at the account. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, if I'm billing somebody, I'm looking at the order because the order is the basis upon which the invoice is generated. So as long as my order, which is it? Yeah. So we populated when we contract from the order is populated here on the contract, and then on the subscription of the order product is populated as well with the order product used. Is it in the page layout? Of course not.
Yeah, because it's created from that. Yeah.
There are so many places in CPQ where, what's a good example? Like quote term conditions. There's no fields on the page layout.
Yeah.
You have to remember to go and add them all to the page layout. It's like, who didn't think of that?
I find that so often. And I'm like, I wish with the package, just put all the fields there and I'll take away the ones that I don't need because you know I'm going to do a cleanup anyway. Like every project I'll do a cleanup, but just put everything there so that
I do try to leave them mostly in where they come out of the box. But yeah, I agree. It's put them all there so I know what is available, and then I'll remove what I don't want to use or hide it or whatever. And it just to me says we did 0 QA on this function. That's what that tells me. We did 0 QA and we did 0 UAT. Technically it works. We checked the box. The engineering team said the function works, and push it to production, and we're going to sell it like it's fully baked.
Do you think it was maybe a thought on, and maybe there was no thought at all on like, let's not put so many fields on there because it's kind of overwhelming and people aren't going to use all the features. And
if I wanted to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, I could do the mental gymnastics required to have that thought. But my brain's not that flexible. So I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with just drastic oversight. I mean, just look at the general pattern of CPQ, and not just CPQ, but a lot of software products. There's so little thought given to user interface and user experience. Because my favorite example is Gmail. I personally don't think Gmail is that intuitive. It's clearly built by engineers. Does it work? Yes. Is it remarkably consistent? Yes. Is it stable? Is it efficient? Yes. It's performant in all these different metrics. But it's kind of ugly. And they tried to make it look prettier in recent years or whatever with a big upgrade a few years ago, but it still is kind of meh. I can't just I use a different email app called Spark. And it's very intuitive. There are a lot of keystrokes and stuff and different things. It's far more intuitive to do than Gmail. So unless I have to, or unless I want to, for example, when I'm clearing out my Garvens Consulting email inbox, and I leave emails in there because I want to log them as activities in Salesforce, I'll do that from Gmail because I cannot do it from this third-party Spark app. But if I'm just cruising through emails and I can just swipe. I could do different things. I could swipe and send that email to Evernote. I can swipe and send that email to Trello if I wanted to track it as a task or something and get it out of my email and into my task board for productivity's sake. Because your email inbox is not a productivity tool. It is an inbox, and you take the thing and you put it in the system. But that's a whole other rant. I'll suffice it to say that I have a client who has been working with me since almost a year ago, and we have not sent each other an email since October.
Because you're in Trello.
Right. We don't use Teams. We don't use Slack. We don't text each other. We don't call each other. We don't email each other. But we've gotten 2 different product lines live in production. We're working on number 3. Their project budget is significantly lower because we don't have all this bloated project management overhead that a lot of consultancies love to use because it's another bunch of billable hours to essentially say, hey, this human being is $200 an hour. They're called a project manager and they're going to schedule meetings. I pay $15 an hour for Calendly. And really, we just take the last 5 minutes of our 90-minute working sessions and we say, hey, is our next already scheduled meetings? Because we meet on Wednesdays and Fridays from 8 in the morning to 9:30 in the morning, and we work. And in 4 to 6 hours a week, we've delivered all of this, and they still haven't crossed $50,000 in total project spend.
You see that as an active trend happening, like the project manager job going out of demand?
No, because there is a use for project managers, and a really good project manager is a lifesaver. If you're on a big enterprise project and you have a dynamite project manager, hell yeah, those people are immensely valuable. But I've encountered far too many project managers over the years that are a glorified inbox filter and a glorified Calendly invite, a calendar link of some kind. It doesn't need to be this complicated. And I would argue that especially consultancies, but any knowledge work environment where we're sitting in front of screens all day, why are we not investing the $15 a month or whatever to automatically share availability so that if you want to schedule time with me, you go to my link and you pick whatever works for you, which, by the way, just like a magician says, pick a card, any card. It's only the cards they want you to pick. That's the trick, right? And it's the same thing.
You have a 2,000, 3,000 line cutover plan in MS Project, right? Where if things go bad, how do you adjust? There, the project manager adds value.
Yes, absolutely. Because we need to think about these things. How do we execute on all of these tasks to get them done with the time and the budget that we have? I mean, that's incredibly valuable. Otherwise, things just trickle on forever. But in my case, so far, I'm a company of one. I do have a couple of other colleagues in the revenue cloud space who are thinking, I'm kind of sick of traditional employment. I want to do something like what you're doing, except I don't have the brand power and the salesy sort of things that you have. So can I just work through you? And I'm saying, sure. Yeah. And these particular resources are fantastic, which means that there's still going to be limited administration on my side. It's going to be a couple of invoices to send, a couple of documents to sign, and then they'll just own the relationship and the work. And then I'll sit back and skim off the top. smaller margin for me, more money for them, because a lot of these, I had a recruiter reach out the other day about some contract or whatever. And I said, let me guess, the hourly rate's about 125 or 100 or whatever, which is typical. But you better believe that this SI is charging $250 an hour to the client for it. So wait a minute, I'm the one with all the skill, and you're billing me at $250, and I'm getting half of that. Okay, you handled finding the work and staffing me on the project, all this other stuff. But is the consultancy, is that SI really adding $125 worth of value to the contractor who has a skill? Now, if you go direct to a client, well, you get the whole $250. So then the challenge for most of us technical types is getting over ourselves and accepting that marketing and sales is good. I cannot help you if you don't know about me. I cannot help you if I don't show you that I can help you and convince you of that. And then we have a backlog of 120 hours worth of work to do. You know, everybody wants to go independent, but they don't want to market and sell but it doesn't have to be sleazy. My sales calls are an hour of this. Let's just talk about it. I'm going to give you basically an hour of consulting. And sometimes that alone is enough to break the ice free, and they're good for a while. But then they'll come back later to say, hey, we got stuck again. Can we get some hours? Sure, that's fine.
Presumably what you're able to take on is smaller engagements though, because of being, So like
but I like those more. I feel like I make a bigger overall, I make a larger percentage impact on the business if it's small. If I'm consulting 3M, am I really going to change the course of 3M and have a big impact on the business? Hell no. But if it's, I don't know, Bill's Bait Shop, which I don't know where that example came from, other than the fact that I watched Grumpy Old Men recently. I mean, I've got a med device company that sells like lab cages and stuff. I've got a SaaS company that does like mass communication-y kind of things. I've got another one is a fintech payment processor. Got a good mix of clients. These are big companies with thousands of employees, and it's just little old me knocking things out, but making an impact on hundreds of users. You know,
what percentage would you say of what you do is like net new implementation, fixing what's there, or like adding, like, oh, we have CPQ, but we want to add this new product line, like you said?
I would say most of the work that I've done over the past 5 years or so has been work on existing implementations. It's been rare that I've gotten to start a net new project. My med device client, they're net new to CPQ, and they have a very basic Salesforce, which is so nice because I can just build it right the first time. Amazing how that works. I'm not overbuilding. We're building very small amounts. We're being very prudent in our use of billable hours so they can keep me going for a long time. And today I realize they have a gigantic swath of products that still need to roll out. So I'll just keep milking that cow for years. Plus, I have a great working relationship with my client. He and I just sit down, we get things done. We're friends at this point. Another project is a proof of concept comparing CPQ and RLM because they weren't quite sure what's the right choice for them. Long story short, RLM is going to, over time, be the better solution for them. And then another client has one of the most complicated implementations of CPQ and an incredibly complex org in general. And I'm working with them to help them simplify things. They're not going to extend me beyond September 6th. There's no budget, but I was able to at least help roll out renewal uplifts and then start the path towards amendment scenarios and using out of the box amendments. So they haven't been doing that. They've just been making what CPQ sees as net new opportunities. But the problem with that is that they're using, block prices and discount schedules that tie to existing order quantities. It's like, well, you're technically creating net new sales. That's part of why your data is all jacked up. So we've at least started the right conversations with the right people. They'll eventually move in the direction that they want to move. So it's like my work here is done. I'm almost like I start the ball rolling down the hill and then kind of guide it for a little bit, and then it's okay, here you go. Like a parent pushing their kid down a bike and on the hill, it's like, okay, and now you're but I'd say the majority, probably 80%, are existing implementations. Of those, half of them are what I call search and rescue projects. And I
Yeah.
basically made my whole reputation as a salvage expert. I'm good at teaching as well. That's another skill set that I have, which is present in my Salesforce stuff. I'm a jiu-jitsu coach as well. I'm good at teaching people things, but that's my sweet spot is, oh, you have a nightmare and you need somebody to come in and help you rectify that. Which there's part of me that goes, why me? But at the same time, you get a higher billable rate when you can do things. Other people know what I know, but few people can do what I do. And that's how I've come to say it recently. But it's fun. And I also like the fact that when I'm out on my own, I can be my unruly, politically incorrect, unprofessional self in a very public way where my friends behind are going, yeah, I'm living through your posts on LinkedIn because you're speaking the truth that I want to say so bad, but I would get in trouble from my boss. Well, I could say it. And I also get a big kick out of thumbing my nose a little bit at former employers who thought that I was an underperformer. It's like, no, Michael Phelps will drown if you chain him to the Titanic.
Yeah.
And is this your only source of income, or have you like put in like a financial, what do you call, kitty somewhere which funds you passively?
That's the ultimate goal. I have two sources of income, though one of them is not very useful. So I have the consulting business. That's where I pay my bills. And then I have my jiu-jitsu academy, which pays its own bills, but it doesn't pay me anything. But that's more of a passion project. It's technically a business. I have that filed as an LLC. Garvens Consulting is an LLC. But the consulting is what pays the bills. Over time, I would like to create online courses for CPQ, for billing, for RLM, etc. I think I have like a nice Venn diagram of I've done the projects, I've taught the classes, I know the tool, because sometimes you have like Salesforce instructors are fantastic. I used to be one and they're brilliant, but many of them have, at least in the revenue cloud space, they haven't implemented much or they haven't implemented it all.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value in, hey, I know this is what the knowledge article says. Let me tell you how this shit really works. Or the types of or this is what the knowledge article says. Now, the challenge you're going to have on these projects is that your client's going to ask for this other thing. And we need to find a way to diplomatically steer them more towards what the knowledge article says or what you're supposed to do, and get them more out of the box, even though they're going to insist, well, we're special, or our business is a little bit different. Yeah. You sell stuff, you get money. It's all the same shit to me. And most of the time when you do things a little bit different, you're overcomplicating what actually needs to happen.
Yeah, but revenue lifecycle management projects itself are not too many, right? It's just kicking off, right?
It's very early because the product was GA in February of 2024.
Correct.
So far, it's essentially a consolidation of several different products. And that's where I actually have a couple of tabs queued up to basically essentially do a quick history of RLM, plus a little bit of the future, where I think it's going to go. But it's a little Frankenstein's monster right now, where we're taking a little bit of this. We had this already. It's almost like we're looking in the fridge. We got a whole bunch of leftovers. We want to buy some new ingredients so that we can make this dish that we found on Pinterest. But I don't need to get all of the ingredients because we kind of have some of these already, and it'll taste good enough by the time we're done. I do think that it's going to be a far superior product over time, but we have to let it ripen. Right now, it's a green tomato. Fried green tomatoes are really good, but you're not going to eat it raw. What was that?
Yeah, anywhere where there's billing and invoicing, they'll want to be like 200% sure before touching it, right? Because why? It's like to your Gmail example earlier, anything which is billing and invoicing, as long as it works properly, it's fine.
Yeah, I would say so. Also, I'm going to try a little experiment with the way this Zoom works. Hold on. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you want to make sure that you are implementing a product that can actually do what the customer needs it to do. I have a simple ask. It's a difficult ask, but it is a simple one. I want a product that works as well as it is marketed and sold. That's a simple request. It is an extraordinarily difficult request because it is marketed and sold as a panacea, the solution to all of life's ills, and also it comes with a free color TV. And reality
do you think
is
any
all of it.
product is like that though?
No product is
Because
like that. Hell, you go to a
yeah.
Michelin star restaurant, there's some imperfection in that dish. I can't perceive it because I'm not that sophisticated. I talk about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, for God's sakes. But somebody can perceive it. Sommelier might be able to perceive it. So no product is perfect. And that's what RLM's got a lot of flack. It's gotten flack from me and others that I know. And the criticisms are accurate. But that doesn't mean that it's a product to hate or that it's somehow some sort of evil product. No, it's still ripening, and it will continue to develop. I don't know about the rest of you on the call. I've never seen this much investment in Revenue Cloud ever. Just the idea that we're even trying to create a Frankenstein's monster of piecing this stuff together so it can all work together. That alone, I mean, it's been 5 years. We haven't seen anything. And then you get the Velocity acquisition, the CPQ acquisition, and it's like, oh, you got competing products kind of in the same realm, sort of. And we all kind of knew that once SteelBrick was acquired, eventually they probably want to get that to core. So that's not this extra package. It's something that you can provision on the core platform. Sure, that makes sense. But it takes a long time to do this stuff. And that's where all of us, myself included, need to be patient as this continues to mature and grow and develop, is that none of this happens overnight. And there are a lot of extremely difficult scenarios that need to be planned. There's a lot of hard thinking that needs to happen. And that's going to take time. And showing a little grace to the product managers that are putting this damn thing together would be good for all of us. It'll help keep all of us sane as well. We have to realize, it's a toddler. It's a fully formed human. Yes. Okay. It can't ride a bike yet. Sometimes it drops its plate of food. It every now and then has an accident overnight,
Do you think it should have been GA when it was?
No, but nobody cares what my opinion is on that.
I think I knew that answer.
I mean, and not just with Salesforce, with a lot of software companies, are their products really GA when they say they're GA? Most of them are a beta, They're past alpha testing. They've done initial QA. It doesn't immediately blow up when you use it. Okay, it's generally available. I've started to think of it as generally alpha release or generic alpha release. That's what GA means to me.
We've done some
with
basic
any
testing.
software. Windows XP. How much shit did that cause when it first came out? Oh, this is the worst OS ever. Although that mentality never really changed. Then they pivoted and did something different. But everybody's upset about when we went from DOS to Windows 3.1, when we went from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. All of these changes upset. Do you remember when the Facebook news feed first came out? We lost our minds. This is the worst thing ever. It's so stupid. And it was just in that little sidebar. You remember that? Like you had your page and then you had this little Facebook news feed. Dumbest thing in the whole world. This is never going to work. This is awful. And now it's the most addicting thing in the world. And they've had this algorithm and Facebook makes billions of dollars off of that stupid function. So a lot of things that are released are hated initially, and then eventually, what's that cycle? You know, eventually they become self-evident. Like, of course, a news feed was going to happen. Of course, why would it not? Because it keeps people on the platform. How do I get the eyeballs to stare at this app longer? That's where things like, I don't know, I give Slack a lot of shit too. I ironically have created multiple Slack workspaces. I have the Salesforce friends that I created. I have another one that I made for a writing group I was in once. I've got one for Garvens Consulting. I try to use it as little as possible because to me, Slack is a distraction factor and a noise machine. And I do my best work in isolation. Put me in a room by myself for many, many hours with no direct distractions, and I will do more work in a day than most people will do in a week. You know,
how much of your work, like of your however many hours you work in a week, I would guess that it's over 40. How much of that is isolated versus like working sessions and stuff, or like LinkedIn time or whatever?
when you say 40 hours, do you mean billable or non-billable?
Mixed, I would say. I would guess.
Are you thinking
that, like,
total hours of work, including
yeah.
billable work? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My target billable is 20 to 25. That's what I target. The past few weeks I've been 30 to 35, and because I have 3 clients simultaneously, and they are all in, well, 2 of 3 are in very important parts of their engagements with me. So they require a lot of time. One of them, I'm glad, because my biggest client, in a sense, I'm part of me sad about it because I like working with this client, but I also understand budgetary restraints. And who knows, maybe we'll work together again in the future. But that freed up bandwidth is going to help my mental state quite a bit. But I almost have, actually I can whiteboard this shit. I haven't used my whiteboard a lot. It's too far away. Where's my other one? Here it is. So I kind of think about my resource planning for myself as you know, my Bob Ross whiteboard. I'm just gonna draw a happy little quadrant. So we essentially have like 2 axes, because I'm a consultant and consultants love 2 axes diagrams. Oh, look at that. We're already happy on this call. Everybody loves this. So I have the number of clients, and I learned how to make a chart in a statistics class I took a year ago. And then we have number of hours. And so we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And clients, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number of clients, number of hours per week, these are in increments of 5. So my sweet spot, I think, is 5, 10, 15, is 25 to 30 hours. And then I try to keep it right about there. 1 to 2 clients for 20 to 25 hours a week, because that is, for me, the sweet spot. Some people, that's too many hours, although then it gets harder unless you have a really high hourly rate and a very low cost of living. That's hard to make work, right? 1 to 2 clients, that is the green zone for me, because I can keep track of 2 projects. Once you get to 3 to 4, I see that as my yellow zone. I can do it, but it's difficult to juggle 3 or 4 clients. 5 or more clients is too many. It's too many CPQ, it's too many Revenue Cloud implementations to keep track of in my head in a week. And then as far as hours, 20 to 25, because as an independent person, I still need 5+ hours a week for running the business. Sending communications back and forth, sending invoices, doing billing, doing bookkeeping type of stuff, creating contracts. That's 5 to 10 hours a week. So I don't believe that it has to be a wild goose chase and a crush it, rise and grind if you want to go solo. I don't think it has to be that way. And part of my goal is to prove that through, like, I'm running 2 different businesses simultaneously, and everyone's like, oh my God, you're such an entrepreneur. No, Anybody can make an LLC. Just send your state some money and they'll let you start a company. It's not that complicated. Solo LLC is basically like a sole proprietorship, except you get a little more legal protection, which is very useful, and all sorts of other things that I won't bore you with. Nor am I an attorney. There's my disclaimer statement. Talk to your attorney. But I'm kind of out to see how effective, how truly productive can a business be? And to me, scale is about more of a manufacturing. Can I get more output for the same or less input? So can I work 20 to 25 hours a week and get my everything else of running the business down to an hour? I can't. That's too drastic. But how do I get it closer and closer to an hour? Some of that might be outsourcing. Some of that might be saying, no, I'm not going to do this. Garvens Consulting doesn't really post a lot on LinkedIn. Why? Because no one gives a shit what Garvens Consulting has to say. They might care what I have to say, but I have more reach than Garvens Consulting does. And if people happen to like my LinkedIn page, okay, fine. Do I need Facebook for Garvens Consulting? I don't know. That'd be a waste of my time. Or business cards. I don't have business cards. I went with a more tech forward approach where on my phone, I have a wallpaper with a QR code.
QR tag.
Let's swipe on. So if you're watching this video and you want to scan, there's the QR code right there. You can talk to me. I do that. I have another one just like that for the jiu-jitsu school. So when I go out around town to a event in the downtown square kind of a thing, I switch out my wallpaper. And then if people have questions, what do you do for a living? Well, when I'm here, I tell them about my jiu-jitsu school. When I'm elsewhere, I tell them about Salesforce stuff. Although when I go to Dreamforce and other Salesforce events, people are far more interested in Freeport martial arts than Garvens Consulting, because consulting is boring and martial arts is cool. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. And then, but the hours part, to go back to that for a bit, the greens, hours is different than clients. Clients, it's red, yellow, sorry, green, yellow, red. But there are bands that extend this way for hours, green, yellow, red, because if I have too few hours, that's a totally different problem than if I have too many hours. Both of them are problems, but you address them in very different ways. And with the contractors that I want to work with, I don't know the exact numbers yet, but I want to get people, I want to work with people who are so good, I could charge a very high rate. And then I take a smaller percentage of that. So they get paid more working with me than any other contractor. And then I get a much more consistent product that I can offer to my clients. These people are at or above my revenue cloud skill level. And
yeah, so they'll be efficient and whatever as well. And you'll be confident.
They're all the people I'm talking to are self-starters. They've done this for over a decade. Like that's the sort of sweet spot that I want to be in. But then I'm thinking, okay, that's great. I'm making the SEAL Team 6 of Revenue Cloud people, the best of the best. But how can I also, and this is something I'm still figuring out, is how could I also create some sort of mentorship opportunity or something like this? Because I live in the middle of nowhere, 25,000 people in this town. But there's a community college, and the community college has computer science students, and those computer science students don't want to live in Silicon Valley. They don't want to go to Chicago. They don't want to go to, they're small town kids. They don't want to do that, but they want to work with computers and they want to work with software and databases and stuff. So could I employ these kids and basically say, okay, Leanne, for example, this is your BA Aaron, and Aaron's going to follow you around, and you two are going to be joined at the hip, and you're just going to go everywhere together. And over time, Aaron would then absorb the lessons and the things, and you'd have a connection to somebody at work, like a work BFF, and somebody that you can mentor, because most of us like to mentor people, or at least the people that I want to work with Garvens Consulting will have that bent, so then you're empowering and enabling and training someone in the way that it really works, the master apprentice model. It works for plumbing and electricity. And I see this tech world that we live in as another skilled trade. but we don't build physical structures, we build digital structures. And so how can I take an apprentice and show them what I know, and eventually, hopefully, they surpass me in skill. And then I will have done my job because I got them to where I am, and then now they can continue and grow from there. And I go, damn, I wish I was that good. You know, that's when I know I've done my job.
I was just looking for an article on a similar kind of example of that, of the company that I work for. One of the companies I worked for previously was Traction on Demand, and Greg Malpass had that idea of, he's from Nelson in British Columbia, and he wanted people to be able to like not have to go to the big cities to get those kind of jobs. So he started an office there. And yeah, so it was they actually bought out the Legion, the local Legion,
Really?
because you call that the same thing in the US, don't you? Legion?
American Legion, like where all the old guys hang out.
Yeah.
All the old veterans hang out there.
It's
and
veterans, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
So but yeah, bought one of those out, so it was like, part of the community, like heritage building and stuff.
Mhm.
And it meant, and it was a small office or whatever, but it was just a nice idea to be able to kind of bring that to those kind of communities. Yeah.
Yeah, because let's be real. Okay, we can work from anywhere. Caveat, asterisk. You can work from anywhere if you already have the skill set I want to hire.
Mhm.
But if you don't, like that was me at Salesforce. When I was hired by Salesforce to be an implementation architect with CPQ, my job was remote. It was always remote. It was never not remote. Part of that was the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, that job was, you go on site once a quarter, and then the rest of the time you live wherever. Didn't matter. The only thing that was affected by that was if you were in a major city, there were different pay bands based on cost of living, and all of that. But aside from that, I could be wherever. But the reality is, if you're new to the world of tech, generally speaking, if you live in a small town like this, 25,000 people in Northwest Illinois, technology companies don't give a shit about these kids. They'll say they do, but if you look at if you look at all of these different programs that are designed to help people skill up in tech, they're all isolated to major cities. And I think that's bullshit. Now, part of that's a practical consideration because those organizations have limited resources, and that might be what they have to do, is serve that community. But what about the half of Americans or that don't live in a major metropolitan area? What about them? Screw them. They don't live in a tech hub, so we don't care. Is essentially the message that we unintentionally send as tech workers. And I know we talk a lot, especially in the tech industry these days, about diversity, equity, inclusion, all this other stuff, and we talk about the various privileges or lack of privileges that people have, and forms of bias and discrimination and stuff. And I see there's a geographic discrimination against people. If you're not in one of our tech hubs, we don't care about you. We're not going to consider you because you didn't go to Stanford and you didn't live in Silicon Valley growing up. Well, I have a music degree from Illinois State University, and I somehow made my trombone playing work for me to get into the world of software. And I came from the middle of nowhere. But I mean, opportunities don't present themselves in places like this. It's better now that we have access to the internet. The world is more globalized, so that helps those of us who are in the middle of nowhere get exposure to and access to those sorts of opportunities. But I mean, small towns, rural environments, unless you already have the skill, good luck. At least that's been my observation. You never know where a Revenue Cloud office hours is going to go. Maybe I'll split this video and then I'll put that piece of the conversation. I'll put that on my John Garvens consultant, my John Garvens channel, where I'm thinking I'm going to talk about career stuff over there. And then on my Freeport Martial Arts, I can do jujitsu-y things, right? So then I got my 3 different interests, kind of life and career growth and development. I've got jujitsu nerd stuff, and then I've got Salesforce nerd stuff in 3 different places on the interwebs.
Josh, our CEO, just did a talk at SoCal or some Salesforce event there, and SoCal Dreamin', I think it was maybe, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it a
which was
Dreamin'
like
event? Sounds
probably
like it.
yeah, but like how he went from being an admin or something to CEO, and he said it was
Oh yeah,
really well
he posted
received.
the webinar in the Salesforce career group that I created on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
which I encourage you to join. Nothing happens in there, but maybe one day.
Okay.
It's a couple hundred people in there. I don't know. I don't want to burn too much time in there, but you know, I created it. It's got almost 300 people now, I think, but nobody really posts in it, so that would need to change. Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Glad it's Friday. It's been a
Heck
busy
yeah.
few
It's
weeks.
Friday.
And I hate to use the word busy because anybody can be busy, but can you be effective? Can you be useful? Can you get
Right.
things done? That's the people. It always drove me nuts early on when I was at Simplest, and Simplest bought a company, and that company used Slack, and then the whole company used Slack, and everything was just Slack all day. And I was in my cave away from Slack, and people get called out in the all hands like, hey, so and so, you're so helpful, and all this other stuff, which is great.
Mhm.
Help your teammates. However, I'm sitting here thinking, are they burning client time as answering other client questions in Slack? Which it goes both ways.
Mhm.
It's just like the Slack workspace that my Revenue Cloud peers are in is, well, it kind of balances out over time and all this other stuff. But for some folks, I'm thinking, are you just trying to get noticed so you get a promotion? Are you really delivering value for your client right now, or are you slacking?
Slacking off.
It's to me, it's an unfortunate brand name. It's
I'm not-
where work doesn't happen.
No, I'm not a fan of Slack. I don't know that.
It's
Yeah.
not just Slack, it's messaging applications in general.
Yeah. I don't like how it's created a work environment where, higher ups or anybody just expect you to be available all the time. Like, I
Reply
feel like
when you
there's any
can. You don't have to
boundaries.
reply right away. But what they mean by that is you don't have to reply within the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Exactly. It's just blurred so many boundaries. And I just feel like there's just a lack of respect for people in the workplace.
Which Slack, like any software company, tries to get you to use their software as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's why Instagram is so addictive. That's why dating apps are, the algorithm of that is like just enough to string you along to keep you there, to push ads on you or get you to buy subscriptions. They don't benefit if you actually find somebody that you want to date. That's not good for the business model, which then gives me a different business model for dating apps. Imagine this: you pay $100 to be on the app, which is bear with me. But
I'm married. I'm not on the apps, but tell me more.
It's
Let me
it's
know
a
how the kids
dumpster
are doing it
fire.
these days.
You thought CPQ projects were a dumpster fire. Wait until you go on a dating app. Imagine you pay $100 up front, but if you don't find somebody you want to date after 100 days, you get your money back.
Oh, heck yeah. I just came out of a client
Now the
meeting.
company's disincented from, they want to push the right people towards you because it's only if you find a relationship that, now, could people game the system and get their money back? Sure.
Right.
Will most people do that? No, because like the spirit of that app would be like, we just trust you to be honest with us. If you meet somebody that you like, just tell us so, because that's going to be worth well over $100 over the course of your life. That kind of a thing. Ohana-e. Yay.
But they'll already have your data if they set it up right, because it'll be on your phone. And there'll be some obscure permission in there that they have access to your other data. So they'll know.
Right. That's true. That's a fair point. None of us know what permissions we're accepting. It's like privacy is a myth. We just need to accept that that's true. It's been a myth for a very long time now, well over a decade, especially when you see the way that many companies, as a consultant, you see the way that many companies treat their data. And you're going, you have all of your company's customer data in this system, Salesforce administrator, and you have public read write access for external sharing. What? what on the product object, I think you can even do that. Why would you ever know? And also, why are some of those the default values? Because if I'm a new admin, how about best practice? Just make it public read only
Right.
as OWDs for all objects. But when you install CPQ, everything's public read write. When you install a lot of applications, everything's public read write. Why? That seems too risky to me, but that's a whole other conversation. See, I know more about Salesforce than just Revenue Cloud. I know about OWDs and sharing rules and validate and then restriction rules now. It's a fun twist. Hey, you can only open things up. Just kidding. Now you can shut things down,
Yeah.
which is good because sometimes you have that one exception that doesn't really justify a whole new profile and sharing an OWD schema. Can we just make one exception that says, you know, homie, don't play that?
Cover your eyes. Like,
But anyway, I don't know. Hopefully this was useful.
Mhm.
We've at least
Yeah, thank
answered
you
the fundamental question at the beginning of the call.
Yes, and I may as well just go into my Salesforce case and just close it now, because they're just gonna tell me the same thing, which
Yeah,
is,
except it's going to take him 4 weeks to do it.
yeah, exactly. So I'll
We're
just
still
cut them
investigating your
off.
case. How many of those are automated? I have a case for open right now. It is the amendments to slab amount discount schedules.
Yeah.
With block pricing. The block pricing
Mhm.
appears to be terminating and going up and down correctly using the proration of when the amendment start date is. But it's the slab discount schedules. And I got notes going all the way back to when my mentor Gilles did a masterclass on CPQ in 2017 in my handy notebook. This one right here. This is one of my most valuable notebooks on earth because it has like old school CPQ stuff that very few people on earth know. And it's like my own little archive of CPQ goodness. And in there it said that slab discount schedules calculate unexpected values. If this was a known issue in 2017, and we were still technically doing releases until recently, and by recently I mean like 3 or 5 years ago, then why have we not addressed this fundamental pricing issue that exists for any customer that uses a slab amount discount schedule? So in a future office hours, I plan to show some possibilities because it seems like the other configurations of it, slab percent, range amount, range percent, all seem to amend well. And for this particular client, the differences between the tiers among those 3 other configurations that do seem to work are so minuscule as to be probably worth the adjustment. On the one hand, do you want to build your business around the way the software works? No. Or to build your business around a bug? No. But at the same time, how much money do you want to throw at a fix or a workaround to the bug just to do what you need? I found that over a standard 36-month contract, that the difference between these tiers for 36 months based on several of the most commonly sold bands was less than 0.5%. It was 0.33% maximum difference between all of those different types of configurations for discount schedules. My argument to the business is, hey, we can't amend. We've never amended, and we implemented CPQ in 2016. We've never amended properly. Part of the mandate from the PE firm that owns us is that we use amendments. And this is a path forward that would allow us to do that. And the other fun fact is, in a way, it's good that we've never done amendments because we don't have jacked up amendment data in there. What we can do is simply update the pick list value from slab to range, still leave it as amount. And then now from that moment forward, when I amend, it pulls in the most recent value of the discount schedule. So all we have to do is update our discount schedules, change the pick list value, and it'll be within 0.25% of what we already do. And the reality is no one really knows what these tiers are anyway. And if you look through the tiers and do the math, it's using amount as the discount schedule approach. But if you actually run the numbers, it's like 65% off, 65.5% off, 65.75% off, and all these other things. And they're managing the discount schedules with the amount to the level of like 8 or 9 decimals of precision in some cases. What? Why? Why don't we? First of all, I bet it's the same across all currencies. Very similar thresholds. Why would you not just switch to a percent? Percent is universal. It's so much easier to admin a discount schedule if it's percent based versus amounts, because amounts has so many unintended consequences and things we have to consider that to me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, especially when the difference between the tiers is fractions of a percent when you actually calculate out the value. And we're ending up with awkward prices anyways, $3,127.14. What? If the point of using the specific currency values was to get it to round to $2,700, I get that. But if we're ending up with some weird down to the penny pricing anyway, what difference does it make? Let's simplify this. And I'll add, if I was to put on my pricing strategist hat, how are we, or CRO hat, one of the, we can increase prices. That's one way to make more money. We could also reduce discounts. So what if we rethought our discount schedules and started the price higher? That's another way. You don't have to just uplift. Sometimes reducing the discount, if the fastest, cheapest, easiest way to increase revenue is to raise prices, then the fastest, cheapest, easiest way to reduce revenue is to decrease prices. So let's make our products a little bit more expensive. Let's uplift on renewal. Let's use percentages so that nobody has to do quantum computing to figure out how this price came into being. Let's stop using slab discount schedules altogether, because that shit confuses everybody. And trying to explain to the users that send these quotes out how this works is so, it's like the customer certainly doesn't understand. So if at the end of the day, the customer is going, how did you get to this price? And the rep goes, I don't know, this is just what the system spits out. I can give you a discount though. If that's the conversation that's happening, then fuck it. Let's just use percentage and make this easier for everybody and enable a lot more functionality and a lot more ease, a lot more calm into the business process. And then that sales ops channel in Slack is going to chill the fuck out for once. And you won't see people going, hey, this is an issue, this price, da, da, da. Let's eliminate all that. But everybody wants to get real clever with their pricing. At the end of the day, all pricing is made up anyway. Who gives a shit? So anyway.
I'll go close my case. Thanks for your help.
Yeah. All of this hour-long rambling and ranting about that. Hopefully it was moderately entertaining and educational.
Always learning. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.